What makes cults terrifying in D&D?
Isn't the dark rituals or the wavy daggers. It's the fact that anybody is vulnerable to being controlled through our desires and our insecurities. A cult isn't a mere gang of bandits. Cultists are manipulated into becoming devoted, obsessive, and cruel through methods far more powerful than any coin or magic. My name is Ben Byrne, and this is how to make cultists formidable in your D&D campaign.
I saw your father. His dream of your family.
Can you help him?
I will do all in my power. However, I have one condition.
Everybody is susceptible to being indoctrinated into a cult. All of us have needs, and cult leaders excel at identifying and exploiting your needs to make you trust them. People don't join cults. They join communities that they believe will fulfill a need, such as escaping poverty, overcoming addiction, or finding safety. What's truly insidious about a cult, as opposed to a band of thieves, is that cults prey on hope to turn their members into monsters. A cult's true victims are their followers. And what makes cults terrifying is the cult leader's ability to convince ordinary, rational people to commit abhorrent deeds through manipulation and coercion. And it's boring and cartoonish to blame a cultist's motivations on insanity or mind control, just like it is assuming that humanoid orcs or drow are naturally born evil.
Smash the dislike button!
The key to making cults formidable in your D&D campaign is understanding the real methods of control that a cult leader uses to gain the faith and devotion of their followers. Consider one of the best villains from a recent series, Victor from Arcane.
Spoiler alert!
Victor begins Season 2 entirely benevolent, curing folk who join his commune from injury and addiction. His followers call him a healer, and Victor is drawn to look like a messiah. Victor fulfills the needs of rehabilitation and safety to his followers, who have only ever known the suffering caused by the conflict between Piltover and Zorn. But not even Victor himself can see that the more devoted his followers are to him, the less human they become. Actually, rewind that. When Victor realizes that the more his followers are devoted to him, the less human they become, his purpose changes to become forcibly indoctrinating everyone into
The final, glorious evolution.
Other cult leaders might not start out quite so altruistically. A more cynical leader will target their followers' insecurities to force obedience. A person who seeks self-improvement or self-enrichment may be vulnerable to being criticized in a way that makes them feel like they need the cult's help.
You're not wealthy because you don't work hard enough. But if you join us, we'll teach you how to become rich, provided you share your newfound wealth with the group.
Such a cult might attract the impoverished or the greedy and legitimately improve their lives, despite the largest share of newfound wealth going to a literal dragon's horde. Fear is another powerful motivator for joining a cult.
A great old one is going to consume the world, but we know the secret of survival through worship.
A cult might offer its members protection from an impending doom, or it might offer the downtrodden a sense of strength and the ability to change their fate.
The armies of our enemies are vast, but together we have the strength to protect our homes. Let us make a sacrifice in Tormak's name.
Sacrificing a goat, right? The thing is, what a cult asks for in return, or whatever it's offering, isn't immediately horrifying. That's why most folks don't realize they're joining a cult in the first place. Membership signups don't start with human sacrifice. They begin with making you feel welcomed, and then the cult asks more and more from you as it pulls you deeper in.
I feared I wouldn't have the chance to speak with you again. I have so many breakthroughs to share with you. I was clouded by emotions. Come, visit me. See what I've accomplished.
The big difference between a D&D cult and a real-world cult is, well, fantasy. Your cult leader can be a dragon, a god of war, an ancient lich, or a great old one. The cult leader you choose will help decide the need your cult offers to recruit new members. Your leader will also inform the motivation of your cult and its actions. So you're deciding kind of three things, really. Who's the cult leader, what they promise to their followers, and what deeds do your cultists commit to achieve what they were promised. When you think of D&D cults, you likely think of the classic Cthulhian Great Old One cult, a group of robed figures in a watery cave chanting in an ancient language. Whilst you should push beyond cliches to make your cults more frightening, this classic image of a cultist can still be made formidable using everything we've discussed. Your D&D cult might worship a reality-bending monstrosity that lives beneath the waves off the coast of a small fishing village. The village is poor and life is hard. But your cult began when folks started hearing a whisper on the ocean breeze, telling them to fish in certain locations. Suddenly, the nets were full and the food was plentiful in the village. Even better, there was so much fish, the villagers were able to sell some to get some gold. This voice becomes your cult leader, a benevolent deity who feeds your families. Except this cult leader, this voice beneath the waves, wants something in exchange for the wealth it provides the village. The tithes it asks for are small to begin with, as it is with most cults. It asks the villagers to build a shrine in a cave. Then it asks for worship in that shrine. And then it asks for some villagers to permanently tend the shrine as priests. And all of these are pretty reasonable requests given the prosperity that the village has gained from this creature. Cults don't go from 0 to blood sacrifice instantly. Cult leaders ask for things gradually. The priests in the shrine begin to truly believe this voice beneath the waves is an ancient god. When the voice gifts them with strange powers and mutations, they accept these gifts willingly because of the good their village has in the devotion that they give this god. This cult has many layers for your party to encounter once they start investigating. Maybe they begin investigating some murders that happened in this seemingly benign coastal village. The villagers all seem perfectly friendly, but the party are followed by some thuggish village watchmen who threaten the characters during their investigation. And finally, this murder conspiracy leads to the coastal caves where the shrine is built and the mutated priests worship. The climactic battle might even be with the voice beneath the waves itself, whatever creature that happens to be. But the question is the entire village guilty of the cult's crimes? Or are they all, priests included, victims of manipulation by an otherworldly being? And that's the horror that you have to tackle with a cult. This coastal cult is very inspired by the Drakkenheim villain known as the Duchess. The Duchess is a horrific monstrosity dwelling beneath the waters of Ash Bay, converting the villagers of Ashshafen into its mutated thralls. You might actually brush up against the Duchess's cult in a new Drakkenheim adventure we've freshly published on D&D Beyond called In Search of Smuggler's Secrets. Written by the Dungeon Dudes themselves, Monty Martin and Kelly McLaughlin, this adventure for third level characters delves into the ruins of Drakkenheim to face mutated horrors, uncover hidden secrets, and of course navigate alliances with rival factions. The adventure is perfect if you want to explore the realm of dark fantasy, where eldritch cults and unnatural horrors prey on the unprepared while keeping their dark secrets. You can grab In Search of Smuggler's Secrets on D&D Beyond by clicking that link right there, or if you want to run the full Dungeons of Drakkenheim adventure module, you can get both In Search of Smuggler's Secrets and Dungeons of Drakkenheim together for a small discount.
Before the moon is full, the vampire messiah will come, the devourer of light who will eat the sun. You will suffer and die, along with everyone you love.
A vampire lord is an obvious cult leader who promises their followers an escape from death. The vampire seems like a messiah because of their power and immortality. However, only the inner circle of the cult actually ascend to becoming vampires. New members must prove their devotion through acts of worship and sacrifices of blood. The cult has many ranks, ranging down from vampire familiars, of which there's now a stat block, to vampire spawn, to an inner circle of vampire berserkers from Grimhollow's Monster Grimoire. This creates escalating encounters your party need to deal with before they can strike at the heart of the cult itself. But the true tragedy is that most of the cultists actually don't hurt anyone else but themselves. Internally, the cultists perform blood rituals, bleeding themselves dry whilst hoping to be chosen to become a fledgling vampire. And for many, that hope is never fulfilled. Those who die in these rituals weren't strong enough or devout enough for the cult leader to choose them for transformation. But the good news is this means others within the cult may have a better chance of becoming a vampire themselves. That's the sort of rhetoric that cults use to keep their members trapped within the cult itself. Sadly, despite being the cult's victims, these cultists will defend their leader tooth and nail. Because if you come to break up the cult, you've come to take away their opportunity for immortality. I could list and describe ideas for D&D cults endlessly. A dragon cult who recruits members through organized crime. Military cults who worship an archdemon of war. Comment below if you want that video. But I think a truly memorable cultist campaign would be one where you, the GM, convince your player characters to join a cult without them necessarily realizing. Many D&D campaigns start with a quest giver who is often a person of authority. A king asks you to slay a monster. An army captain asks you to find his missing soldiers. Why not a priest who asks you to find a group of bandits who murdered members of their congregation? Bringing such murderers to justice is a simple and common enough quest. Then the priest says that the bandits desecrated their temple. Your party is asked to find a new relic of the priest's lawful deity. So you do, restoring the temple to its former glory. Appreciative, the priest sends you to meet the local bishop, who has a task fitting for your party's skills. The bishop tells you of a dangerous archmage hiding in the mountains. You find the archmage and destroy them, and then the bishop tells you of another group of dangerous spellcasters he wants you to hunt. You discover some of these spellcasters are only acolytes, yet they wield enough power to destroy a village and have been ambushing travelers on the road. Does your party question why the Archmage hides in the mountains? Or do they ponder why the woodland spellcasters are stealing food instead of practicing magic in a college? Do your players realize that they're doing the bidding of the fundamentalist cult called the Arcanist Inquisition? Subtly convincing your players to join a cult creates a far more personal relationship between them and the cult leader who's the villain of your campaign, if they ever realize that's what's really going on in the first place. How heinous do the requests of your quest giver have to become before the party wakes up to the reality of the cult that they work for? Or will they live forever in denial? I mean, the requests start small, like this video, then they get a little bit bigger, subscribe, and then it's hit the bell icon before you're being asked to check out this video that we made last year. Or will your players live in denial through the entire campaign? To try this idea, find a need that your player characters have during the campaign, or you could discuss it during a session 0. What are the motivations of your player characters? Then design a cult leader who can fulfill and exploit those needs. Do your player characters desire to defend the downtrodden? Well, mages are dangerous foes to folk who can't defend themselves. Do your player characters desire gold and power? Create a secret pyramid scheme that they can join where they exchange large amounts of gold for magic items and boons. But slowly, the cult begins to demand more from them than just gold, or else the flow of magic items will stop. The stat blocks you'll use for your cultists really depends on the type of cult your campaign uses, so you should watch this video to learn how to make any humanoid formidable regardless of creed or culture. Or if you want your D&D campaign to feature the Arcanist Inquisition, watch this video to learn what makes them such a frightening fundamentalist cult.